The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with panic. Hundreds of alien representatives huddled around the central hologram, their faces lit by the pulsing red light of the spatial anomaly that threatened their worlds. The massive crystal dome above them showed the purple-black expanse of space, where somewhere, light years away, their doom was growing. Ambassador Tom Miller sat quietly in the human section, watching the chaos unfold. He wasn't the tallest, strongest, or most impressive being in the room. Next to the towering crystal forms of the Bright Ones, or the metallic bodies of the Machine Empire, he looked downright ordinary. The anomaly has grown another 40% in the last cycle, announced First Speaker Reed, his tentacles waving in distress. At this rate, it will reach the core worlds in less than 30 days. The hall erupted again. Miller watched as the supposedly bravest races in the galaxy argued about who should investigate the threat. The Bright Ones claimed their crystalline forms were too precious to risk. The Machine Empire calculated a 98% chance of total loss. The warriors of the Red Sun simply stated that dying without glory was beneath them. Surely someone must go. Reed's voice boomed over the noise. We cannot simply watch as it devours our worlds. Miller looked down at his tablet, reviewing the reports. The anomaly had appeared 3 weeks ago, a strange tear in space that absorbed everything it touched. Ships, probes, and drones had all vanished without a trace. Each race had their excuse for not investigating closer, all of them wrapped in fancy words that really meant one thing. They were afraid. The human smiled slightly. Fear was something his people understood well. The humans have been unusually quiet, said a voice from the upper tiers. Miller recognized Lord General Blake of the Machine Empire, his mechanical eyes focusing on the human section. Perhaps they are too frightened to even speak. Laughter rippled through the hall. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as the cautious ones, the species that always planned for retreat, that built escape pods into every ship, that insisted on multiple backup systems for everything. Other races saw it as cowardice. Miller stood up slowly. Actually, he said, his voice calm but carrying across the suddenly quiet chamber, Earth would like to volunteer for this mission. The laughter stopped. Every alien eye, sensor, and sensory organ turned toward him. You? Lord General Blake's mechanical voice carried disbelief. The species that builds escape routes into their homes, that practices evacuation drills for their evacuation drills. Exactly, Miller said. We're the species that has survived every major crisis we've faced because we planned for the worst. We're the ones who build backup systems for our backup systems, not because we're cowards, but because we understand that true courage isn't about ignoring danger. It's about facing it wisely. He walked to the central platform, his footsteps echoing in the silence. The hologram cast his shadow large against the wall behind him. You call us cowards because we retreat when needed, but we always come back. You mock our safety protocols, but our ships have the highest survival rates in the galaxy. Yes, we're afraid. Fear is what keeps us alive. Fear is what makes us think twice, plan better, and find solutions that don't involve needless sacrifice. Miller gestured to the hologram of the anomaly. This thing scares us. It should. But that's exactly why we're the right ones for this job. We'll go in careful. We'll go in prepared. And if we need to retreat, we will, so we can come back with a better plan. First Speaker Reed's tentacles curled thoughtfully. And you believe you can succeed where others see certain doom. I believe we can try without getting ourselves killed, Miller replied. Sometimes that's enough to make the difference. The hall remained quiet for a long moment. Then Reed spoke again. Very well. The Council recognizes Earth's volunteer status. You have full authorization to investigate and attempt to neutralize the anomaly. As Miller walked back to his seat, he could feel the stares of the other representatives. They still thought humans were cowards, but soon they would learn that courage came in many forms, and sometimes the bravest thing you could do was admit you were afraid and move forward anyway. He pulled out his communicator to contact Earth Space Command. They had a lot of work ahead of them, And true to human nature, they would plan for every possibility, prepare for every outcome, and pack more escape pods than anyone thought necessary. Because that's what humans did. And somehow, it always seemed to work out just fine. The hangar of Earth Space Command buzzed with activity. Captain James Walker stood before the newly assembled crew of the starship, Prudent Endeavor, watching as engineers performed their third safety check of the morning. Other species might have called it excessive. Humans called it Tuesday. Captain, called Engineer Lucy Cooper from beneath a panel, "We've finished installing the backup life support systems. All 4 of them." "Only 4. Walker smiled. "Better make it 5. The joke spread through the crew, easing some of the tension. They all knew what the other species said about them. The news feeds were full of alien reporters mocking Earth's overly cautious approach to the mission. Mike Roberts, the ship's head of security, walked up with a tablet in his hands. "Sir, you should see what the Machine Empire just posted about our preparation time." Walker glanced at the screen and read aloud. "Humans delay vital mission to triple-check equipment. Cowardice or incompetence. They really don't get us, do they?" Roberts shook his head. "Should I show you what the Warriors of the Red Sun said about our escape pod count?" "Let them talk," Walker said, watching his crew work. "I'd rather have 100 escape pods we don't need than need one we don't have." The Prudent Endeavor stood tall in the center of the hangar, its hull gleaming under the lights. It wasn't the biggest ship in the galaxy, or the fastest, or the most advanced, but it was probably the safest. Every system had a backup. Every backup had a backup. And yes, it had more escape pods than any other ship its size. A group of alien observers stood on the viewing platform above, their expressions ranging from amusement to disgust. They had come to watch the humans prepare, probably expecting to see panic or fear. Instead, they saw something they didn't understand: careful, methodical preparation. "Look at them up there," Cooper said, emerging from beneath the panel with grease on her face. "Betting they've never seen a ship with redundancies before. Or emergency rations that could last a year," Roberts added. "Or backup engines for the backup engines," Walker finished. "Speaking of which, how's that coming along?" Cooper grinned. "Just finished installing the 3rd set. And before you ask, yes, each one has its own independent power source." The alien observers started muttering among themselves when Cooper's team began yet another system check. Walker could imagine what they were saying. The same things they always said about humans. Too careful, too slow, too afraid. But Walker knew better. He had lost friends in space, good people who might have lived if their ships had just one more backup system, one more escape pod, one more emergency protocol. Never again, humanity had promised. Never again would they lose people because they hadn't prepared enough. "Captain," called out the ship's doctor, "the medical bay is ready. We've got enough supplies to treat the entire crew 3 times over." "Make it 4, Walker replied. "We might need to treat some of our alien friends up there, if things go wrong." The doctor nodded and went back to work. That was another thing that set humans apart. They prepared not just for themselves, but for everyone. Because you never knew who might need help out there in the dark of space. As the day went on, Walker watched his crew transform the Prudent Endeavor from a standard exploration vessel into something unique. Every drill was practiced until it became instinct. Every emergency scenario was planned for. Every possible failure was accounted for. Finally, after what the alien observers surely thought was far too long, Walker gathered his crew for one final briefing. "Tomorrow," he said, looking at each face in turn, "we launch. The galaxy calls us cowards because we take our time, because we plan, because we prepare. But I call us something else. I call us survivors. Whatever's out there, whatever this anomaly is, we're ready for it. Not because we're fearless, but because we respect fear enough to prepare for it." The crew stood a little straighter at his words. They knew what was at stake. They knew the risks, and most importantly, They knew how to face those risks intelligently. As the alien observers filed out, probably to report on human cowardice again, Walker smiled to himself. Let them mock. His ship was ready. His crew was ready. And sometimes, being ready was better than being brave. The prudent Endeavor moved slowly through space, its sensors reaching out into the darkness ahead. Captain Walker stood on the bridge, watching as the anomaly grew larger on the main screen. Behind them, at what they call a safe distance, 5 alien ships watched and waited. Imagine calling us cowards while hiding 10 light minutes away, Engineer Cooper said from her station. Her fingers moved steadily across the controls, checking and rechecking their systems. The anomaly pulsed with an angry red light, like a wound in space itself. It was bigger than their reports had shown, almost twice the size now. All systems holding steady, Roberts reported from security. Shields at maximum. All 4 backup shield generators standing by. Walker nodded. Begin passive scans. Let's see what we're dealing with before we get any closer. The alien observers had laughed when the humans insisted on starting with long-range scans. The warriors of the Red Sun had called it dancing around the enemy. The machine empire suggested it showed lack of decisive action. But the first scanned results made Walker smile. Captain, Cooper called out, excitement in her voice. We're picking up patterns in the energy readings. This isn't natural. It's artificial. The bridge crew leaned forward in their seats. Artificial meant someone had built it. Built meant it could be understood. Understood meant it could be stopped. Send the data to the alien observers, Walker ordered. Let's show them what cowardly humans can do from a safe distance. As they continued their careful approach, more data poured in. The anomaly wasn't just artificial. It was ancient. The energy patterns matched no known civilization, current or historical. Captain, Roberts said suddenly, I'm detecting something at the edge of the anomaly. Looks like debris. Metal debris. Walker made a decision. Launch Probe 1. They watched as the small probe moved toward the debris field. The alien observers sent messages questioning why they didn't simply fly closer themselves. Walker ignored them. The probe's camera showed chunks of metal floating in space, covered in strange markings. But what caught everyone's attention was the way the pieces moved. They're not random, Cooper whispered. Look at the pattern. They're moving in a perfect circle around the anomaly. Walker pressed a button on his chair. Launch probes 2 and 3, different angles. Let's confirm what we're seeing. More data flowed in. More patterns emerged. The debris wasn't just debris. It was parts of an ancient machine, torn apart, but still following its original programming. Captain, Roberts called out, the machine empire is requesting permission to approach. They say our primitive scanning is taking too long. Before Walker could respond, a bright flash lit up the screen. Where Probe 1 had been, there was nothing. Probe 1 lost, Cooper reported calmly. Energy spike detected just before loss of signal. Analyzing data now. The machine empire ship had already started moving forward. Walker hit the comm button. Machine empire vessel, we strongly advise against approach. We've just lost a probe to an energy discharge. The mechanical voice that responded dripped with contempt. Perhaps if you had built proper equipment instead of redundant safety systems. Another flash. The machine empire ship vanished. Silence fell over the bridge. Walker took a deep breath. Cooper. Analysis of Probe 1's final data. Sir, she said, her voice steady, the energy spike matches the pattern of an ancient defense system. The anomaly. It's not a natural phenomenon at all. It's a weapon, or at least part of one. Walker nodded slowly. Their caution had just saved their lives and given them crucial information. The other alien ships were already retreating to an even greater distance. Send all our data to Earth Space Command, Walker ordered, and to the Galactic Council. Tell them we found evidence of an ancient defense system, possibly damaged or malfunctioning. As his crew worked, Walker watched the swirling patterns of the anomaly. They had learned more in 2 hours of careful observation than others had in weeks of reckless attempts, and they had done it without losing a single life. The aliens might call it cowardice. Humans called it wisdom. And now, with the first real understanding of what they faced, they could begin planning how to deal with it. Because that's what humans did best. They learned, they planned, and they found a way forward. Not the fastest way, or the most glorious way, but the way that kept people alive. The bridge of the Prudent Endeavor, filled with red warning lights. Captain Walker gripped his chair as the ship shuddered around them. The ancient defense system had suddenly become active, sending out waves of energy that made their instruments go crazy. Primary power at 60% and dropping. Cooper shouted from her station. Her fingers flew across the controls, activating backup systems one by one. Something's draining our power. The warriors of the Red Sun, watching from their safe distance, sent an immediate message. Press forward. Glory awaits those who face death without fear. Walker ignored them. Roberts, status of the shields. Primary shields failing, Roberts replied calmly. Switching to backup shields now. But sir, they're being drained too. Through the main viewport, the anomaly pulsed with angry red light. Pieces of the ancient machine they discovered were spinning faster now, creating patterns they hadn't seen before. Sir, Cooper called out, I'm detecting a pattern in the power drain. It's not random. It's like it's following a sequence. Walker leaned forward. Show me. The main screen displayed a series of waves, up and down, but not randomly. Like a heartbeat, like a cycle. Then everything went wrong at once. Multiple system failures, Roberts shouted. We're losing power across all decks. The alien observers sent more messages. The machine empire called them cowards for not pushing forward. The bright ones demanded they gather more data before retreating. But Walker remembered his training. He remembered all those drills everyone had mocked them for. He remembered why humans always planned for retreat. Initiate Emergency Protocol 7, he ordered. His crew moved without hesitation. They had practiced this hundreds of times. Emergency Protocol 7. Full retreat using minimal power, while gathering data the whole way. Activating emergency thrusters, Cooper reported. Rerouting all non-essential power to sensors and shields. The ship began to move backward, slowly but steadily. The aliens watching them sent messages filled with scorn and disappointment. Then Cooper shouted something that made everyone freeze. Captain, look at the readings. As they retreated, following their careful protocol, their sensors picked up something new. The power drain wasn't just following a pattern. It was building toward something big. Energy spike incoming, Roberts warned. Massive surge detected. Hold position, Walker ordered. Keep retreating at exactly this speed. The anomaly flared brightly, releasing a wave of energy that could have torn their ship apart. But because they had retreated, because they had followed their cowardly protocols, they were just far enough away to survive it. And their sensors recorded everything. Sir, Cooper said, her voice filled with excitement, we just recorded a complete cycle of the defense system's activation sequence. No one's ever gotten this data before because no one survived long enough to see it, Walker finished. Everyone else tried to push through it. The bridge crew worked quickly, analyzing the new data. The pattern was clear now. The ancient defense system wasn't just broken, it was stuck in a loop, building power and releasing it in regular cycles. Send the data to Earth Space Command, Walker ordered, and to the Galactic Council. Priority message. As his crew worked, Walker allowed himself a small smile. Their cowardly retreat had just given them the key to understanding the anomaly. No other ship had this data because no other ship had survived long enough to gather it. The alien observers were oddly quiet now. Perhaps they were beginning to understand that there was more than one kind of courage. Sir, Cooper said, looking up from her station, Earth Space Command sends their congratulations. We're the first ship to return with complete scan data of the anomaly's power cycle. Walker nodded, and all it took was being willing to run away. Not run away, sir, Roberts corrected with a grin. Make a strategic withdrawal. The bridge crew chuckled. They had lost no lives, kept their ship intact, and gathered crucial data that might help them stop the anomaly. All because they weren't afraid to retreat when needed. As they established a safe observation position, Walker sent a message to all the alien ships. Sometimes, those who step back see the whole picture best. Now they could begin planning how to stop this thing, because that's what humans did. They retreated, they learned, and then they came back stronger than ever. The main hall of the Prudent Endeavor was unusually crowded. For the first time ever, representatives from the alien races sat with the human crew, studying the data from their strategic withdrawal. Even the warriors of the Red Sun had requested permission to come aboard, though they tried to hide their interest. Captain Walker stood before the large display screen, showing the energy pattern they had discovered. The defense system operates in perfect 6-hour cycles, he explained. Build up, release, cool down, repeat. Engineer Cooper stepped forward, pointing to specific parts of the pattern. Each cycle draws power from anything nearby. Ships, probes, even space debris. That's why pushing forward never worked. It just gave the system more power to use. The Machine Empire's representative, who had lost a ship to the anomaly, spoke up. Our calculation showed a direct approach was fastest. Fastest isn't always best, Roberts said from his security station. Sometimes slow and steady wins the race. Walker nodded to Cooper. Show them the next part. Cooper pressed a button, and new data appeared on the screen. We discovered something else during our retreat. The defense system isn't just damaged. It's trying to repair itself. Those pieces of debris we saw. They're moving into position, following the original programming. The aliens leaned forward, their previous disdain forgotten as they studied the data. The human approach of careful observation had revealed more in one retreat than all their aggressive attempts combined. But how do we stop it? Asked the Bright One's representative. Our crystals cannot withstand its energy pulses. Walker smiled. By using what everyone mocked us for, our backup systems. He brought up a new display showing the Prudent Endeavor's power systems. When the anomaly tried to drain our power, our backup systems kicked in one at a time. Each switch confused the defense system for a moment. It's not designed to handle multiple small power sources. The alien representatives exchanged looks. They had always seen human redundancy as wasteful. Now they were beginning to understand. Watch this, Cooper said, playing a recording from their retreat. Each time we switched power sources, the defense systems cycled hiccuped. It's like trying to drink from multiple straws. You can't get a good pull from any of them. The warriors of the Red Sun representative stood up. So you suggest we attack with many small ships instead of one powerful one? Not attack, Walker corrected. Approach carefully, working with the system's own cycle. We've mapped out safe zones where the power drain is weakest. If we time it right, we can get close enough to understand how to shut it down, Cooper finished. The alien representatives began talking among themselves. The humans watched as their cowardly methods were suddenly being discussed with respect instead of mockery. The Machine Empire representative turned to Walker. Our ships have no backup systems. We always considered them inefficient. We'd be happy to help you install some, Cooper offered, along with a few escape pods just in case. To everyone's surprise, the mechanical being nodded. Perhaps efficiency isn't everything. As the meeting continued, more alien representatives began asking about human safety protocols. The warriors of the Red Sun wanted to know about emergency retreat strategies. The Bright Ones inquired about redundant power systems. Walker caught Cooper's eye and smiled. Their careful approach hadn't just given them a chance to stop the anomaly. It had shown the galaxy a different kind of strength. There's one more thing, Cooper said, bringing up a final display. We've detected a pattern in the debris movement. The defense system isn't just trying to repair itself. It's trying to return to its original configuration. If we can figure out what that was, we might be able to help it repair properly instead of fighting it, Walker finished. The aliens stared at the display, then at the humans. The idea of helping the thing they had been trying to destroy seemed strange to them. But then, humans had always been strange. As the meeting ended, the alien representatives filed out, talking quietly among themselves. Their ships would need modifications before they could help. More backup systems, more safety protocols, more of the things they had once mocked. Walker watched them go, knowing that today marked a turning point. The galaxy was beginning to understand that sometimes the best way to face a problem wasn't to overpower it or outfight it. Sometimes the best way was the careful way, the safe way, the human way. A fleet of ships hung in space around the anomaly. But this time they weren't watching from a safe distance. Each vessel, whether alien or human, had been modified with backup systems, redundant power supplies, and yes, plenty of escape pods. The aliens had learned their lesson well. Captain Walker stood on the bridge of the Prudent Endeavor, watching as Engineer Cooper made final checks on their new equipment. All ships report ready, Roberts announced from his station. They're following our safety protocols to the letter. Never thought I'd see the warriors of the Red Sun installing backup generators, Cooper said with a smile. Or the Machine Empire asking for emergency shutdown procedures. Walker nodded. The past week had been busy. Every alien ship had been retrofitted with human-style safety systems. Even the bright ones had agreed to add escape pods to their crystalline vessels. Beginning Phase 1, Walker announced to the fleet. Remember, slow and steady. No heroics. Instead of charging in as the aliens had once suggested, the fleet moved forward in careful stages. Each ship carried a small power source, designed to confuse and distract the ancient defense system. Energy drain beginning, Cooper reported. Switching to first backup system. Now. Around them, other ships did the same. The defense system tried to pull power from them, but couldn't focus on any single target. It was like trying to catch smoke with your hands. Look at the debris field, Roberts called out. The pieces are moving slower. It's getting confused. Walker watched as their plan unfolded. The defense system's angry red pulses became irregular, its patterns disrupted by the multiple small power sources it couldn't properly drain. Phase 2, Walker ordered. Begin transmission sequence. This was the truly human part of the plan. Instead of trying to destroy or overpower the ancient system, they had studied its original purpose. Cooper had discovered that it was meant to be a protective shield, not a weapon. It had only become dangerous when damaged. Each ship began broadcasting a simple code sequence, one that Cooper had found hidden in the system's base programming. Not an attack signal, but a repair command. The warriors of the Red Sun are reporting power drain at acceptable levels, Roberts said. Machine Empire ships holding steady with their new backup systems. Cooper worked at her station, monitoring the defense system's reactions. It's responding to the repair sequence. The debris field is realigning. Wait. A sudden surge of energy made all their ships shudder. Some of the alien vessels started to pull back, but Walker's voice stayed calm. Hold position, he ordered. Trust your backup systems. This is part of the process. The aliens had once mocked humans for having backup plans for their backup plans. Now those same redundant systems kept their ships safe as the ancient defense system went through its repair cycle. Energy spike decreasing, Cooper reported. The debris, it's forming a pattern. The original pattern. Through their viewports, they watched as pieces of the ancient machine began moving with purpose. No longer random debris, but parts finding their proper place. The angry red light faded, replaced by a soft blue glow. Final phase, Walker announced. Engineering, initiate the shutdown sequence. This was the riskiest part. Cooper had designed a way to safely power down the defense system, but it had to be done carefully, step by step, just like humans always did things. Shutdown sequence running, Cooper called out. 10 minutes to completion. Those 10 minutes felt like hours. Every ship maintained position, their backup systems handling any power drains. The aliens who had once rushed into battle now showed perfect patience, following the human example. Finally, Cooper looked up from her station, smiling. Shutdown complete. The defense system is dormant. We did it. Cheers erupted across all channels. The aliens celebrated not just their victory, but the way they had achieved it. No heroic last stands, no glorious sacrifices, just careful planning, good preparation, and the willingness to take things slowly. Message from the Galactic Council, Roberts announced. They're asking if we can teach our safety protocols to all spacefaring races. Walker smiled. Tell them we'd be happy to start with the basics. Escape pods, backup systems, and emergency protocols. The aliens had finally learned what humans had always known. True courage wasn't about not being afraid. It was about being afraid and still finding a way forward. A careful, prepared, well-planned way forward. Looking at the now dormant defense system, its soft blue light pulsing peacefully, Walker knew that the galaxy would never see humans quite the same way again. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council looked very different from when this crisis began. Gone were the panicked faces and accusations. Instead, Ambassador Tom Miller found himself surrounded by aliens eager to learn more about human safety protocols. The Council recognizes Earth's contribution to galactic safety, First Speaker Reed announced, his tentacles moving with excitement rather than fear. The human approach to crisis management will now be required learning for all spacefaring races. Miller watched as Captain Walker stepped forward to accept the Council's highest honor. The medal seemed small compared to what they had really achieved, a complete change in how the galaxy viewed human nature. Tell us, Captain, Reed asked, how does it feel to have turned cowardice into wisdom? Walker smiled. We never saw it as cowardice. First Speaker, humans learned long ago that fear is a gift. It tells us to look before we leap, to prepare before we act, to plan for the worst while hoping for the best. In the audience, Engineer Cooper and Security Chief Roberts sat with representatives from every major race. The warriors of the Red Sun now carried emergency beacons. The Machine Empire had installed backup systems in all their ships. Even the bright ones had started running evacuation drills. The defense system is now fully repaired, Walker continued. It protects rather than threatens, as it was meant to do. And we achieve this not through brave sacrifices or glorious battles, but through careful observation and cautious testing. The Machine Empire's new Lord General stood up. We have calculated that implementing human safety protocols will increase fleet survival rates by 300%. We were incorrect in our previous assessment of human methods. Very incorrect, rumbled the warriors of the Red Sun leader. There is no glory in dying when you could live to fight another day. Miller remembered how these same aliens had mocked humans just weeks ago. Now they were installing escape pods in their ships and running safety drills. The galaxy's greatest warriors were learning the value of retreat protocols. Cooper stepped forward when called, bringing up a hologram of the reformed defense system. The ancient builders included safety protocols similar to ours, she explained. They knew that the best defense isn't about being the strongest, it's about being the most prepared. The council members nodded in agreement. The old way of thinking, that caution meant weakness, was changing. Humans had shown them a different kind of strength. Earth Space Command reports that requests for safety training have increased by 5,000%, Roberts announced with a grin. Apparently, everyone wants to learn how to be cowardly like us. Laughter filled the hall, not mocking this time, but genuine amusement. The aliens had learned to appreciate human humor along with human caution. The Council proposes a new division, Reed announced. The Department of Strategic Safety, to be headed by human advisors. Your people's experience with careful planning and risk management is unique in the galaxy. Walker looked at his crew, seeing pride in their eyes. They had done more than save the galaxy from a threat. They had shown that there was strength in admitting fear, wisdom in careful planning, and courage in knowing when to step back. "We accept," Miller said, standing tall. "On one condition. Every ship in the galaxy gets escape pods. No exceptions." More laughter, followed by earnest nodding. The aliens had learned their lesson well. As the ceremony ended, Miller found himself surrounded by representatives asking about human emergency protocols. The warriors of the Red Sun wanted to know about retreat strategies. The Machine Empire inquired about redundant systems. The Bright Ones asked about backup plans for their backup plans. Walker joined him, watching the scene with satisfaction. "You know what they're calling us now?" he asked. "The Wise Ones. Apparently, being careful is no longer considered cowardly." "It never was," Miller replied. "We just had to show them why." Outside the council hall's massive windows, ships of all races flew past, each now equipped with human-style safety systems. The galaxy had changed. Fear was no longer seen as weakness, but as a tool for survival. Caution was no longer mocked, but respected. The aliens had finally learned what humans had known all along. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you're afraid, prepare for the worst, and move forward anyway. Because that's what humans do. And now, that's what the galaxy would do too.